I really like my hair. It's just laying flat. Oh well, such is life. Hi everyone, I'm Josh. Welcome to my channel for my first book haul in, honestly, years. I've moved back to the States, which I guess I've probably already said on this channel. And with that move comes the reality that I can convince myself I can plausibly collect books and maintain that collection without much struggle. This is the choice that I've made, and now we're here, and I'm realizing that it's enough justification for me to buy myself more books, which is a problem because I'm getting too many and I don't need these. Either way, I am excited about having the new books, and that's just what doesn't become a problem. Anyways, let's just get to it. You're here to watch the books, not me fret about my spending money I shouldn't be spending, or don't need to spend at least. Let's begin with two phenomenal finds. This is what really kicked it off. The what's the word? It's like the avalanche. It's like it starts here and it all just sort of spirals. Once I spend money on this, why stop there? You are looking at two first editions of Dawn and Adulthood Rights, which is the first of the Xenogenesis trilogy by Octavia Butler, the only books in her series, or only books in her collection I haven't actually read. So that's right, I spent more than I will tell you on these two first edition books, which just happened to be at the bookstore in my new town, which is to say Ithaca, New York. They have a great book collection. I think that speaks highly of the location, to be honest. I remember living in Ontario, London, Ontario specifically, and the collection at those local bookstores, the youth stores, were just very, very disappointing. And it was really more a reflection of the community, to be honest, than on the books, on the bookstore itself. So I just couldn't turn it down. Like, what are the chances that these would be available? And how much? Yeah, as much as I remember. Yes. What I'll say is I spent less than $100 on each of them. That's what I'm comfortable saying. But still, super excited for this. And I just remembered I have one more Octavia Butler. It wasn't a first edition, but it was an old one. And that is Wild Seed. This is an old classic edition paperback. I don't generally collect paperback, but Octavia Butler is one of those rare authors who I honestly want multiple copies of their works. I mean, I don't feel bad about these. These are three books, honestly, the three that I feel like I am most justified in buying because they're an author that I absolutely adore and whose books I know will bring me great value even if I keep just listening to them. Because this is also a talking point. Be able to say, hey, look at this great new book I found, or used book. You should read this author. Which if you haven't read Octavia Butler, you should. But at this stage, like, I'm fairly sure it's like pretty mainstream now to have read Octavia Butler. At least the people who generally watch my videos. Well, that's not true. The people who regularly watch my videos. And then there's the majority of people, which I'm pretty sure are just new, who come and watch 30 seconds and then click off. But that's just me complaining about how bad of a YouTuber I am. So with that said, let us continue. There's not much of a pattern here. This is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. This was a used one. I thought it was less than $10, but it was a good price. And I'm just not reading enough anti-racist books. So obviously this is a pretty easy book to pick up for that reason. Next up, we have one of the two books I bought at Barnes & Noble because they were like 50% off on one buy. The Queer, a Novel by Williams Burroughs or something. I think this was made into a movie apparently. I didn't know about it, but oh god, it smells so good. But the cover was enticing, and if you at all have seen any of my most recent videos, you'll know that I'm trying to read more backlist books very deliberately. And given this was clearly a reproduction, like a re-release of an older book, it was an easy book to justify. I may have others here who meet that qualification. This was one of those. Next up, we have a book that I think has just been popular, and also one that I bought on audio already. So, Monstrileo by Gerardo Samino Cordova. I really should have Googled that first, but this was one of those impromptu videos, which is what every video is now on my channel because I've just not been feeling it lately. I want to read this. It's horror. It's weird fiction. I've heard good things, and I think I got this mostly because I wanted queer and because they were on sale. It was like I had to pick two for one off. Then we have more used books. This is nonfiction science, Coming of Age in the Milky Way by Timothy Ferris, which is sadly not on audio. Well, it's on abridged audio, but so I mean, there's a good chance I will read this. There's a good chance I end up getting the ebook and just doing text-to-speech that way. I don't know. I have been like consistently reading physically, but like the same book for the last half a year or more. But It's not fresh. It's not as good a smell. But I'm still hopeful. This is like a quintessential book in science history that apparently is just highly regarded. And so that's why I bought it despite it not being on audio. Next up, we have book 2 in the Eleanor Roosevelt series, which I'm like 60% sure I have the first one. I just don't know where. And I don't know if I read this. I could have swore I did read book 2. I have no memory of reading book 2, which is why I'm thinking I haven't read book 2, because I feel like I would remember book 2. This is the story of her life before JFK, before Roosevelt, FDR, and after FDR, I mean the third one. This one being her time, I think, as First Lady, generally speaking, or broadly speaking. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But I bought it, and I'll figure out if I read it. Carl Sagan's Billions and Billions, a series of essays that were collated after his death. I think I bought this originally thinking I read this, but it was his other books, Varieties of Scientific Experience. I'm reading his entire backlog, and I'm making good progress. I mean, he's one of the authors I've already read a lot of, and it's been a while since I read his first books, meaning the first books I read by him, it's been a while. Meaning I need to go back and read those, honestly, before I even pick this up, if I'm being honest with myself. That is a video I want to talk about, which is to say, science books I want to revisit. Next up, we have Goliath by Tucci Onyebuchi. And this is one that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up because I'm not sure if I want to read this, but it's definitely received a lot of praise by people on BookTube who I feel like I have similar tastes in, share similar taste in books. It is. That wasn't the only reason. It was also because it was signed. And like, I think I paid $12 for this. $12 for a hardback of a signed edition. It's just, it seems like a really good find. So I will prioritize reading it now that I've owned it. It's not necessarily a goal of mine, which I don't have many of, but that's still something in the back of my mind. And then I have 2 of these books because I love them so much, and I didn't own them because I really fell in love with the series when I started to reread it while I was still in Australia. Book 1, which is on hardback. I think this was cheaper than the paperback for some reason. Don't ask me why, but also I just preferred this. But I didn't want to knock at the second one, even if they're not going to match. I think it's like the first 2 are on hardback and the third one isn't. I don't know. I remember there being like a conflict when I tried ordering them online. I wanted all hardback and I couldn't find it consistently, so I decided not to stress about it. And just to be excited about the fact that I have 2 of my favorite books of last year. One being a reread, one being a fresh read. Then we have a recent read, a new find or new edition of I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. And this was one that I read just this last month or so. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I fucking loved this book. It was phenomenal work of dystopian fiction, really setting up this mystery of what the fuck's going on, with sort of homages, I feel like, to things like The Handmaid's Tale or The Road, but at the same time not letting itself sit or be restricted by these sort of preconceptions or homages that it's creating, and this sort of interesting dynamic of characters coupled with, I mean, I wasn't supposed to be doing this review, but coupled with just that ongoing mystery. It's just a really compelling work of fiction, and it's also a backlist. I think it's from like the 1990s. And so I read it, I loved it, and I figured I'm at a local bookstore, not Barnes & Noble, and why not just embrace it when it's, well, $17 isn't cheap. But I did really love it. If I had sat down and counted how much I was spending on this trip, I probably would have not gotten all these books. But I was already at the cashier when I realized exactly how much I had spent. Then we have a book that I'm honestly not sure if I've read, because I know I've come close to reading, and that is The Dragons of Eden, Speculations on the Evolution of Human Intelligence, which is just an early book by Carl Sagan that is almost certainly out of date of all of his books, probably one of the big ones. But it won like a Pulitzer Prize, and it's one of his like quintessential works that could really put him on the map as far as a science writer, science communicator. And I used to have the first edition, and something happened and I lost it. One of them was, I think my sister got it wet, and or something, I don't remember. And I remember keeping the paperback, like the paper cover, for some reason, for the longest time. Honestly, I may even still have it, but I saw first edition. I figured I'd get it. It was more than I think it should have been, but I guess it is a first edition, so maybe that's why it's considered so highly. And then finally, it was one that I've not heard of, but by an author I'm familiar with, which is Ibi Zoboi, and that is Star Child, which is a biographical, what is wrong with me? Biographical constellation of Octavia E. Butler. And it's small, and I don't necessarily expect to get too much out of this, but it was also pretty cheap, $12. I figured why not give it a shot. It's a lot of poems. Maybe I did not know what I was buying. Maybe it's like bits and pieces about her life coupled with poems that Ibi Zoboi is writing about her. Maybe that's what it is. It'll be intriguing. And it's short, so it's not a big commitment. That's why I got it. I thought it would be an interesting read, considering my love of Octavia Butler. And with that, that's my most recent haul. Yep, and this is my new book setup. If you want a tour, let me know in the comments, and I might do it. Otherwise, honestly, I probably won't bother. But if you're seeing this, that means I felt motivated to edit it and post it. Probably soon after I edited and posted my best nonfiction list of last year. But if you're watching, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.